Welcome back to the Cats Connection News. Today I'm doing a Staff of the Month interview with
Mr. Lesko.
So, Mr. Lesko, what classes do you teach?
I teach film and literature, a literature class about novels, 2 sections English 3, composition 1 and 2, speech, which is now called public speaking. It's now a college class. And then this lovely class we're in right now, journalism, where we try to put together a newspaper every month, typically successfully.
How long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching since 2007, so I think I wrote on there 18 years, which is crazy. It's crazy to think it's been 18 years.
What degrees do you have that apply to what you teach?
Everything. All the degrees that I have apply to what I teach. So my undergrad's in English, so I do a lot of English classes. And then my first master's was kind of in creative writing and composition, and then I leaned into the composition stuff and finished that up. I like the creative writing stuff too, I really do. But and then I went on to a literature master's at SIUE. And so I teach literature because of that. You had to have that to teach the college level. Then I went to Western Illinois, where I got a master's in education. And that's so I could teach at the high school where I teach now. I'm currently working on a degree at Arizona State University in communications, so I can teach the public speaking class. And I use some of that stuff in journalism. I use some of it in speech, of course. So yeah, I think they're all applicable, believe it or not. And some of them were specifically so I could teach a class, Kinley, you know. Like I knew I wanted to study literature and English. I like that stuff, right? But you know, I went to ASU to study speech, so I could teach the public speaking class as a dual credit class specifically.
What one would you say is like the most used?
Oh, sheesh, I don't know. I think when you're taking classes, you probably always think the thing that you're doing most recently is the most used, right? So it'd be tempting for me to say, oh, the communication stuff right now, Kinley, I use it every day, and you probably do, but I think you're just recognizing that because you're in it. I use a lot of the educational theory stuff from the education degree, and obviously all the English studies, everything I've studied in English literature, everything I've studied in writing. We use all the time in my classes. So it would be hard to say just one. There's really a lot of overlap.
So you obviously have a lot of degrees, masters, all of that. Where did you go to school in I assume it's multiple places.
So I started out my college career at Valparaiso University in Indiana. Miss Porteous went there too, believe it or not, Miss Porteous. Not at the same time, though. But anyway, I started out there. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was really good at chemistry, so I started with that. I was at the top of the chemistry freshman year. I was the top of the class. And so I got put in charge of a bunch of labs. I was teaching my second year there. I was teaching English or engineering students chemistry, believe it or not, in a lab. But yeah, I didn't stick with that. I actually I pulled my chemistry professor aside my second year. I wasn't loving organic chemistry because it's a lot different than the math that you do in regular chemistry, like the chemistry you take here, which I really enjoy, right? The organic stuff's a lot more memorization, and I just wasn't loving it. And I was tutoring doctors through it. And I pulled my professor aside and I said, so what am I gonna do with this degree, right? And he said, well, I've got you lined up for an internship over the summer already. And I was like, this guy, this is awesome, right? What a great dude, right? And he said, it's mixing paint, basically. You're going to be making paint for DuPont. And I said, okay, cool. So summer gig, And I said, well, is that what the career's like? And he's like, yeah, that's pretty much the career. Is you'll be working in a lab. I'm like, with whom? And he's like, well, your partner, Devin, was my lab partner. Love him to death. This guy would taste chemical compounds. We'd have to figure out what something was. He'd just be like, oh yeah, that's definitely like xanthium or something. I'd be like, dude, what if you die? He's like, they want to give us something poisonous. I'm like, you don't know that. You do not. Anyway, he's lovely, right? But he said you'll mainly be hanging out with other nerdy dudes like Devin the rest of your life. And I love Devin to death. And he went on to the program, and I was like, I think I'm out, right? He also told me one day, this professor, to be really careful with the borium gas. He's like, a lot of us die of cancer really young, just so you know. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you're in a field that's really dangerous because you're exposed to carcinogens every day in the lab. And I went, I think I'm out. Like, I think I'm leaving, right? Like, because there were things I liked about it, but I like people, right?
I like being alive.
Yeah, and I also like not dying, right? So I probably could have made more money doing, mixing paint at DuPont or something. But I pivoted and studied Latin. I really liked that. And then I realized, like, you probably can't. What do you think you do with a Latin degree, Kinley?
Teach Latin?
Yeah, that's all I could think, too. And as you can imagine, a lot of schools probably don't teach Latin. So I was like, I should probably do something for real, right? So a few changes down the road, and I'm studying English again. And I've always loved English. I've always loved writing. I was writing throughout the whole thing, right? But I just wasn't focused in that field. So I pivoted into English and finished up my degree. When I got done, I asked the professor, well, what do you do now? Right? And he said, well, you are one of our top students. I said, oh, thank you, right? He says, you should go on to a master's. And I really respected this guy, and he recommended the University of Northern Colorado. I took a gap year, and my girlfriend and I, she had just graduated, she graduated the year after me, we moved out to Colorado together. And that didn't work out, obviously. But I think she's still out there. I think she's doing well, right? And I went out there to study English, creative writing and composition, and I studied out there for 2 years, finished up that program, and then I came back here. I started teaching for Lincoln Land. I taught with them for like 15 years or something ridiculous. I like them a lot. I think they're a good community college. And then a little ways into that, I decided, you know what, I want to do a literature thing. And so I went to SIUE and I got a literature master's, and I got a post-baccalaureate in the teaching of writing while I was there too. I only need a few more classes till I get this other thing, and I like the writing classes too, so I did that. And then I was working in marketing on the side, which I know you're probably going to ask me about later. Professors don't make any money. Right. And I don't care too much about money. That's not, if I cared about the money, I'd be a chemist. Right. I would have stayed there. Right. I knew going into English, I wasn't probably going to make too much money. So that was never really on my radar. But I fell in love, Kinley, and I got married. And, it turns out that you got to provide too, right? So the $20,000 or so I was making being a professor wasn't really cutting it, right? So I pivoted again. I went to Western Illinois University online and got the master's there in education. And that allowed me to come and teach at this high school. And then since then, as soon as I finished up that degree, I went straight into ASU the next semester to try to work on the speech stuff so I could do public speaking dual credit. Because when I got here, I could already do everything else dual credit. Why not do one more, right? And I'm finishing that up now. I'm taking my last class. I'm very sad. I can't believe I'm taking my last class. You guys are probably like excited, right? Like here I am, like 20 years later, and I'm like, this is my last master's class probably right now, and I might not ever take one ever again. That's silly, isn't it?
It's kind of crazy.
It is. Anyway, it's been a journey. It's been fun though.
When did you start teaching here at Mount Olive?
Well, I wrote it down on there. I think it was it 22, 23. So is this my fourth year? Is that how the math works? Or is it third? Fourth.
26.
26, fourth? Math hard. Yeah, 2022. That sounds right. I started teaching in the fall. And it's been great since.
So how many of your classes are dual credit?
All of my classes except for English 3 and journalism are dual credit. If I could, I'd probably go on and try to make a dual credit track for journalism. Honestly, the next thing I was going to do was mass communication master's so that I could make maybe a journalism 2 where you'd come back for a second year, Kinley, and then you'd get maybe a college credit for it.
A lot of juniors would like that. I know I would.
I'm sure. Maybe I'll do it anyway. Just got to find the funding. Right?
What made you start teaching here at Mount Olive?
I had offers at 2 other locations. But my mother taught here for years. In this room. It was painted a different color back then. It looks so much different, honestly. But my mother had taught here for years. I knew some people here. I grew up in town. I went to Staunton. And we were living in Troy, so this was a close option. We wouldn't have to move necessarily. We did move, obviously, to town, which I prefer, but we didn't have to, right? But really the big appeal, Kinley, was that during the interview, I was told that there was this technology, the RISE technology, the one-room technology, that would allow me to teach here and remotely in another district at the same time, offering the dual credit classes that I could teach. And I thought, that sounds fun. I had done a lot of online stuff and hybrid stuff at Lincoln Land over the years, especially during COVID. And I like being on the cutting edge of education. So that really appealed to me. I think some people would have looked at that as like, oh, that sounds like more work. And to me, that was like a really fun challenge, and I couldn't wait. And then when I started, and they were like, "You're the only person in the state doing this," it's like, you're messing with me. Like, I kind of assumed that, someone would take me under their wing and they'd be like, "Here's how you do it, by the way, and it's going to be great." And I would, take the bits that I liked and make it my own. And no, it was
the whole thing was your own.
And so now I'm like supposed to be training other people this summer on how to do what I do. But that was really the big appeal. I knew people here. I knew the district. They needed like exactly what I knew how to teach, basically. I hadn't taught public speaking before, and I hadn't taught journalism, but I taught a class similar to English 3 at the college before. And all the other classes were, hell, my mom and I, some of these classes we developed together. So it felt, she had literally some of the books on the shelf that I've been teaching in novels forever. And we'd talk about them because she'd be teaching them here and I'd be teaching them at the college. So there were a lot of reasons. The tech was a big part of it. Right?
What's your favorite extracurricular that you teach?
Oh, I don't know.
And that's including journalism.
Oh, man. Well, up until this year, journalism has been a lot of work. It has been a lot of work. Most of the time, the end of the month, I drive my wife crazy. And my mother warned me this, that at the end of the month, you'd be on InDesign, like doing all the layout stuff and doing all the editing. In this class, I cannot possibly overemphasize how proud I am of this group. Everyone in here really pulls their own weight and does a great job putting together 4 pages of the paper every month. So this has been an absolute privilege. And I hope we can keep this up going forward. You guys want to stay and do another year or something? Anybody? But I don't know. I'm a big nerd, so no. Just give a big thumbs down. I'm a big Warhammer fan. Like, I'm a big tabletop role-playing person. So I play tabletop war games, which is probably weird. You move little miniatures around and you measure them. I love that. But when I came here, the students expressed an interest in like a D&D role-playing game club. And I had never run D&D, actually, believe it or not, right? I had run other things that are role-playing games, but not D&D specifically. And so I saw that there was a need for that. So my second year here, I opened up the D&D club, and that has just been extraordinary. Running games with students and then developing stories together collectively, laughing, crying. We've cried whenever characters and people die in the story. The whole table will be like, like tears, right? There are moments that happen where people have leapt up in the air and cheered in hilarious things that have happened that have just made us all burst out laughing, right? And that has been just a wonderful experience. There are still students who graduated from here who bump into me in the wild, and they'll be like, "You remember that one time when that twig monster, we snuck up behind it and we assassinated it, and right before we killed it, you had it turn and say, 'Oh, hi,' in like a little baby voice, but it was too late. We'd already killed it." And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious, right? So I think it's probably D&D, and I don't think I would have known that until I started doing it. It's a lot of fun. We have a really good time, right?
And for my last question for you today, what's your favorite thing to teach about?
Not Gatsby. Can we say that? Are we allowed to say that? I don't know. I really like the literature stuff. Films is fun. I love teaching writing. I love teaching speech. It's hard. I love what we make in journalism. I think what we put together, the skills that we use, watching individuals like you develop a passion for interviewing, your skill with photography, watching our editors do their work, which I think they probably think is really lame, but then get really good at that, at playing Tetris as they do layout, or copy editors. So it's hard to pick just one thing. I think I like parts of all the classes, honestly. But, you know, I love teaching novels. It's a lot of fun. But I like teaching films, too. The reading and judging the writing is probably the hardest thing, because I don't like passing judgment. Mm-hmm. And I want to say that I feel like you're all growing and trying and being the best version of yourself, right? So that's hard, but I still enjoy reading it and getting to know you each as writers, right? So I think I like all of it, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't, right? So yeah, it's all pretty great, really. Yeah.
Well, that is our Staff of the Month interview with Mr. Lesko.
Thank you so much, Kinley. Absolute pleasure.